What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the 1960 Plus podcast. My name is Cristian, and joining me this week, for the first time in a while, actually, we got my co-host, my friend, my footballing intelligent friend, Saul. Saul, how you doing, man? What's up with you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Just it's been a while, as you said. I'm excited to talk footy again. Excited, I missed out. I don't know how many weeks, but there's been a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about. I mean, we probably won't get to it all, but overall, just exciting, man. Just excited to hop back on and talk.
Yeah, man, glad to have you here with me, and glad that, you're with me on the week where Aldo can't make it as well. So, yeah, good to see you. Good to be back on the podcast and talk footy like we always do. And what a day to talk about it, man. Right after the Champions League final just took place. Pretty, I was going to say epic final, but honestly, I would say anything besides that. But still, overall, good game. Great result as well for, I guess, if you're a City fan. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll start with any biggest takeaways or anything like that, unless you have one off the top of your head.
No, I was just gonna say it might have not been epic, but it was historical.
Yeah.
City's first Champions League victory, man. I mean, dude, I don't know. I'm not a City fan, but I can only imagine how that first one feels. After years of throwing money, and I'm not trying to take a shot, but after wasting so much money, it's like. It finally sticks and they win their first Champions League against Inter. And what I must say is, in my opinion, the second most boring final after the Liverpool versus Spurs ones in recent memory. Because that Liverpool versus Spurs one was boring. I don't think anything will top that one. I mean, last year's had some action, but yeah, we went to go watch it at a bar. And if it was, as you said, if it wasn't for that bar, this is one of those games where you'd probably be on your phone by halftime, just having it in background, just looking up anytime you hear the commentator raise their voice or something, because this was not good.
Yeah.
not interesting.
I think the past 4 Champions League finals all ended 1-0, so yeah, some of them have been more entertaining than others, but nevertheless, like you said, City's champions, first Champions League in a while, Pep's first Champions League title since, 2010? Or 2010?
11, is it 2010, 2011 season?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Mm-hmm. And obviously the second club in English history, or just football history, the second English team to complete the treble.
Yep.
So, yeah, pretty historic event. 1-0, as we said, Rodri, he got the difference maker and late in the second half. And honestly, the second half was probably the more entertaining of the two. The first one was really dull. I mean, I think both teams were just trying to ease into the game, see where they can find open space and exploit it. But now the second half, things really came to life. I think especially after Lukaku came on for Inter, we all know the chances that he's had. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, none of them were put away by him. And then he was even played a part in keeping some of his teammates' goals out of the back of the net as well. But yeah, overall, man, where do you think the game was won and lost for City?
I don't know. It was a boring game. So I think it was one. I mean, as we saw, City had like a 0.85 XG, while Inter had an XG of 2 point something. But I think it was just City's, I wouldn't even say relentlessness, but just kind of not giving up on their attacking. Because, everyone knew Inter was just coming to park the bus and counter. And I think just City's insistence of trying to keep on breaking that team down it eventually happened. I mean, they had, I think one clear chance, because I wouldn't even call that, I mean, it ended up a goal, so you kind of have to call it a clear chance. But it was like half a chance, rebound, and then right to Rodri. He still had to not get lucky, but he had a really well-placed that shot. But besides that, they only had that other chance where Foden got through, and I don't know how he missed that. That was the clearest chance of the game. But yeah, I just think they just took advantage of their very few opportunities that they knew they'd have versus Inter, and that was the difference. I mean, Inter got unlucky, though. Lukaku, man, that guy. Oh, I feel bad for him. The hate he's going to get, man, he blocked, 2 goals? Unfortunate, the first one, he was standing wrong place, wrong time. It got blocked. And then the second goal, I think he should have better placed the header, but it is what it is now, and yeah, I can't help but feel bad for him, because after all he's been through, how much people disliked him, especially after that failed transfer to Chelsea. He comes back, he practically begs to come back to Inter, and then now I don't think he's staying at Inter. They have financial problems. I don't think he's staying there, so be interesting to see what happens to him, because I really doubt Chelsea want him back.
Yeah, man, I think you said it right there. And yeah, overall, I think Inter did put up a great display defensively. You know, the back three or back five, they may not be the most star-studded players on the team sheet that Inter have, but they did a good job for the most part. They really kept Man City at bay for most of the game. And let's be honest, that Rodri goal kind of fell to him on a half chance. And you can argue that, you know, Onana couldn't really see the ball. There's players in front of it. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for that, you know, there was clear-cut chances. Maybe Foden had the clearest chance. Who was the header that Lukaku saved off the line?
DiMarco's header?
Yeah, DiMarco. He, in my opinion, he should have just headed it. The first one he got before that, instead of trying to dink it over the keeper, should have headed it to his left. Lukaku right at Ederson as well. Yeah, I mean, a game that could have gone either way, honestly. But overall, you know, I think City was always going to be the winners. And it's funny because if Inter would have won for me, it would have been exactly how City just won this game. You know, gritty 1-0 win after having all these chances created for the other side. But no, I mean, completes the great season that City's had. I mean, the Premier League is probably one of the best and most, redeeming or most, gives you like a sense of achievement that they've had for a while, because honestly, most of the seasons where they've won, it's the third year in a row, but most of the seasons they've been far and had the best team for most of the season. But this season, to come back and really take it away for Arsenal in the last month or two of the Premier League, that's got to be really special. And the FA Cup against, you know, Manchester City, I mean, it's going to be Manchester United, their biggest rival, that's got to feel really good. And then the elusive Champions League that's eluded them their entire tenure as a club. It's eluded Pep ever since he left Barcelona. It's got to feel good for them. And then you and I were talking how this is the first Champions League trophy for every player on the City roster, except for Scott Carson, honestly. Who
the
we
least
just found
expected person, really.
Yeah, but no, I mean, overall, it's got to be a feel-good moment for them. Clearly, I think they're the best team in Europe by a far country mile. You know, Arsenal had a really good season for parts, but they were up and down most of it. Same way you can say the same about Napoli, Feyenoord, Barcelona, Real Madrid. You know, all these teams were really inconsistent or patchy, but City, they were kind of consistent, especially for the last, 3-4 months of the season, and I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess all that's left now is we got to answer 2 questions, and I wish Aldo was here. Well, kind of 2, but one's kind of like a 2-parter. But the first one is it's a 2-parter. But it's about Pep. Is Pep the greatest coach of all time? And secondly, the second part of that is do you think Pep's done with City after this? Because my theory was always like he wins the Champions League with City, and I think maybe not done with football, but I think maybe he takes a sabbatical like he did after with Barca. You know, I think that's kind of been like the thing that's eluded him the most is that Champions League thing Champions League trophy for so long. And my theory and my feeling was always like once he wins that Champions League with City, I feel he's gone. You know, most clubs I think he hasn't spent more than 4 or 5 years, and now he spent more time at City than he has done with any other club, and he's caught them a Champions League. And in my opinion, it's just a feeling based on nothing really. I think either he leaves after this one or he doesn't renew his contract next time. And, you know, he's not done with football, but maybe with coaching, yes, and he does move up to... I think he would return to Barca. He's always talks about Barca so highly. Yeah, it's the club of his life, how he loves it, and he's never hidden that. He's always said it openly. So, I don't know. I have a sneaking suspicion he might return to Barca or some other club in maybe another position, like in the management board or outside advisor, something. But what do you think?
I mean, poetically, that's the right thing to do, right? You retire, not even retire, but, you know, you take a step back after this because you've completed everything you want to at this club. He's won everything he can. But, I mean, we said the same thing with Messi after he won the World Cup. You know, that was the perfect time to take a step back, possibly retire. But I just don't see Pep doing that. I mean, he's still the greatest manager in the world. And to answer your other question, yeah, I do think he's the greatest manager of all time, you know, because people will argue Sir Alex Ferguson and the team that he won the treble with. But Pep has done it now at 2 different teams. And for me, he's just modernized football so much to the point where we have to respect him for it and give him his dues. So for me, absolutely, yeah, he's 100% the best manager I've ever, in my opinion, to ever manage the game. And then as to what he does next, I don't know. I'd love to see him manage an international team, honestly, see what that would look like.
A lot less stressful, too, but it's not as simple. I think maybe Brazil, since Brazil's waiting for Ancelotti, but I don't know, because Brazil's wanted him before, but at the same time, you know, I think the difference is with City and like other teams, practically he got to choose the players he wants and he'd get them. Now here it's just a select number of players, so who knows.
Yeah, and then obviously he's managed, Barca, City, Bayern, the three biggest clubs in each of their respective leagues, arguably. I mean, what's next after that? Maybe Juventus, PSG. I don't see him going to any of those clubs, honestly. I mean, unless he wants to really prove himself and go to a lower level club, which I just can't see him doing. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I think at this point he deserves to do whatever he wants to, and that if that's take a step back or manage an international club or go back to Barcelona, I think he's more than happy to do any of that, and I don't think any fans will begrudge him for it.
Yeah, and I guess second question now is, I wish Aldo was here for this one, man. I think you know what I'm about to ask, but is this City side the greatest English side in football history so far?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what's funny is I just saw a video about this not too long ago comparing the two sides, and I don't know, man, that Man United club that won the treble, what was it, 99, 98?
Around that time, yeah.
Yeah, from that Sir Alex Ferguson team. I mean, obviously they had Beckham and Cantona and all these other good players, but Ferguson, he got really good quality and performance out of just average team players. And then obviously you look at this City team and it's from front to back just world-class players. And I don't know, I think Pep has been very privileged and been very blessed with the squad he has. And like you said, been able to choose and pick who he wants and what position and really build his team, build the players he wants around it. I don't know, as far as... I think if these two were to play at their prime, I would still take probably the City team. But then again, I don't know if this is the best City team that we've ever seen under Pep.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Centurions too. But I think City would win based on the fact that I guess I'll answer it like this. Depends on what era. If we play back in that United era, I think United takes it. But if you play back in this era, I think City takes it because it's like, as you said, Pep has just revolutionized football, and I think the football they're playing today was something they hadn't seen back then. And I think it would just, United wouldn't know what to do. It would just catch them off guard. They'd be like, what do we do? But if you play in that era, with those tactics at the time, I think United win. But I mean, I wouldn't agree with world-class position in every single one because, what's it called? Ake and Akanji, left back and right back, too, those are not world class in my opinion. Ake's had a stellar season, but he's not a left back, he's a center back, so I don't agree. I mean, he's had a stellar season. He has been world class this season, but Pep's made him world class. And Akanji too. I remember Akanji, a lot of Dortmund fans were like, when City bought him, they're like, yes, someone fell for our trap of buying him for, what was it, 17 or 25 million? And people were like, with a year left on his contract, people were just happy. They were just like, oh, they're like, someone bought him, someone fell for the trap. And dude, he's been like a key piece to City. So yeah, but I do think I'll say this: if they win, if they complete the sextuple, I think no doubt, no questions, no doubt, no nothing, they are the greatest English side of all time. I don't think anyone will be able to argue it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a hard argument to make. You can say that these players are better in certain positions and all these other arguments, but the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, when they win trophies and all these statistics and metrics they put up, that's hard to argue against. So, yeah, I guess I agree with that. Yeah, and then we talked about Inter and how they were pretty unlucky with it. Not just Inter too, but if we want to talk about just European competitions in general, obviously the Conference League and the Europa League as well. They were contested by teams that were in the final. They included Italian teams, and neither.
All three of them lost.
Yeah, exactly. Fiorentina, they lost to West Ham, and then Roma, they lost to Sevilla. So, although you can say from an Italian perspective that we had the most teams in European semifinals or finals in general, then at the end of the day, none of them walked away with a trophy. And for most of the part, I think Roma was heavily favored, especially with Jose Mourinho's record in UEFA finals. As far as the Conference League as well, Fiorentina, they put up a good fight versus West Ham, and it took a last-minute winner for West Ham to walk away with it. And Inter, too, we just talked about how they missed their opportunities, and they could have easily come out this game with a winner. They produced more XG than Man City did. But yeah, very unlucky. But if anything, I think it says a lot about how far the game has progressed in Serie A and over in Italy, because we used to look at this league as such a defensive league, a very pragmatic league, but now look at how these teams are playing nowadays, and they very much modernized themselves. Napoli's a good example as well, the way they're playing in the modern era. So I think Serie A is definitely a future for some of the best and most competitive football teams in the world.
Yeah, man, I agree there. But yeah, I mean, you got anything else to say? Otherwise, a couple other things we can talk about.
Not really. I mean, while we mentioned the conference in Europa League, I do want to give a shout out to David Moyes. I mean, I think he finally won a trophy and it's well deserved. There's a lot of nice narratives in that final as well.
Yeah.
Declan Rice probably going to leave this summer, so it's nice he leaves West Ham with somewhat of a trophy. And then there's also photos of him and Mark Noble. Remember Mark Noble, man? I think he was the original Declan Rice, but he very nice to see him celebrate with the team and Declan give him the trophy to lift it in front of the fans. I thought that was a nice touch. And then speaking of that as well, that will be the 8th team competing in European competitions this next season. Obviously the top 4 in England, and then Brighton, Aston Villa, Liverpool, and West Ham now since they won the
Newcastle
Conference League. Newcastle as well, yeah. 8 teams to look out for in Europe next season, so maybe they're going to be what the Serie A teams were this season.
Dude, I'm actually excited for just European football in general. I'm excited to see Brighton, Villa, Newcastle, even though, it is shady with their money and stuff. But, bro, just seeing new, fresh teams in there is exciting for me. I mean, I think Real Sociedad finally qualified after years of just missing out. They finally qualified for the Champions, so we'll see them there too.
Feyenoord.
Dude, yeah, it's just, I think it's going to be exciting. Just a lot of new teams, a lot of new faces. Except Serie A, who they get AC, Inter, Lazio. They're always pretty disappointing, though. And Napoli.
We also got Union Berlin from the Bundesliga, who finished 3rd or 4th, I think. And then Lens, who's competing in the Champions League for the first time ever as well, over in France.
Dude, yeah, just exciting. But, I mean, there's a couple things we're going to talk about out next. It just depends what you want. I mean,
well, you mentioned Newcastle and how kind of shady their owners are. So I think that's the perfect segue to go to the Saudi takeover that we've been seeing in modern football. I mean, obviously Ronaldo was kind of kicked it off early last season. That was mid-season, honestly, right after
I think it was right before the World Cup, wasn't it?
Man, this whole year of football has been crazy. To go back and think at the beginning of the season, dang, Ronaldo was playing at Manchester United. That's just mind blowing to me.
Bro, sometimes it's been such a long season that I think that's also part of the reason why I've kind of I'm wore down on football a bit, because it's so down. Like, I'm so used to, what is it, usually mid-May and everything's over, and I'm just, I guess this way it's kind of worn me down, because sometimes I would forget, like, the World Cup happened. I'd be like, oh shit, Messi did win it last year. But yeah, Saudi, I guess the overarching question, which we'll answer along together, I guess, is, do you think Saudi will potentially ruin football? Because, I mean, let's talk about it. Benzema, confirmed. N'Golo Kante, pretty much confirmed. Ronaldo's there, as we mentioned. Wilfred Zaha supposedly has an agreement. Icardi supposedly there after him. Allegri, coaches aren't safe from here. I'm pretty sure Juve fans wouldn't mind them taking Terrible Allegri away. Supposedly they're already targeting some players for next season that are going to be free agents, such as, I don't know if it's Heung-min Son or Son Heung-min. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but him from Tottenham. There's also Lukaku, supposedly they want. Lewandowski, supposedly they offered, but he wants to still play in Europe. Alba, Busquets they offered, but they haven't decided. Di Maria they offered, but they haven't decided. But, my point is, with how much money they have, and that supposedly their plan within the next 5 years is to spend, I forget how much it is, but I want to say 5 billion, but I'm not sure. They want to spend a ridiculous amount of money. They want to practically grow their league. When I heard essentially their final goal is to be one of the, I want to say top 5 or top 6 leagues in the world. And dude, with the amount of money they have, like, I think it'll happen. But I guess do you think it's going to ruin football? Because, I mean, right now they're only going after free agents, but I have no doubt that soon enough, if the league continues to grow, I have no doubt that they'll start offering actual fees for players, being like, oh, we want this guy, we'll offer you this much. And I think the only teams that will be saved are the teams that are state-owned. Man City, PSG, Newcastle, and a couple others, because those are essentially the only ones that can really compete with the money they have. I mean, Chelsea can, but Chelsea, at the same time, their money only runs so far. And I think right now, at the moment, who is going to hurt the most is the leagues that are just outside the top 5, Portuguese league, the Dutch league, and Turkish league, maybe some of the French league, because I feel like some of the players that would potentially be going to them, Saudi is just going to snap them up with the ridiculous amount of money. But yeah, I guess. Do you think it's going to ruin football, or what do you think will happen?
I'd like to say no, but this is very reminiscent of what happened all these years ago with the Chinese Super League, and we saw what happened there. Obviously, there was other factors, including finances and the COVID pandemic that took place of it eventually collapsing. But no, I mean, let's look at it in an honest perspective. Ronaldo was 38 when he moved there. Benzema's 35. N'Golo Kante's 33. Then they're offering players that maybe they're not at the same age level, but they're...
Saha still could offer a couple more years, though. God,
Yeah,
dude. But my thing is, all these players still could have offered at minimum 2 or 3 more years at the pinnacle of European football. Like Kante, healthy, still one of the best midfielders in the world. Benzema, I think, had an off season last year, and it's also because he's pretty much Real Madrid's only forward. And then, they also offered for Modric and Cruz, and supposedly they're both tempted because it's they're towards the end of their career, and it's a lot of money, man. I mean, Benzema, look at Benzema. Just 2 days before he signed, he said the internet is not reality, pretty much shooting down rumors. I mean, Marca, who's considered one of the most reliable Madrid papers over there, even came out with their exclusive that Benzema was staying, and 2 days later he signed, and it's just crazy. But my theory around Benzema is I think he kind of learned from the past. He saw Sergio Ramos, Casillas, and other legends pretty much get kicked out the club, and this guy was like, well, they still want me here. He's like, I'll just leave and go get my bag instead.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think we won't have to start worrying until it's players that are pretty young that are trying to be lured to Saudi Arabia. I think for now it's pretty much an all-star league, and then obviously they're going to do a huge marketing campaign for it. Watch all these stars, and it's kind of like what the MLS did all these years ago. When they're attracting players at the end of their career, at the twilight of their career, and they're trying to market that as to we have all these world-class players, all these former World Cup players, former Ballon d'Or winners, but I don't know. I don't think the Saudi Arabian market. I mean, it's probably getting up there. It's not just in the world of football. It's also in the world of golf, professional wrestling, all these other huge industries that they're really big into. E-gaming nowadays too. They have their own arena over there. It's freaking crazy. But yeah, I mean, they're just. I think at the end of the day, it's just the rich trying to get richer. And if some players can benefit from that, like Benzema and Kante, like you said, then I mean, who are we to be like, all they care about is the money? I don't know, man. It's they're at the end of their career. It's the last big money move they can get, and if they can, then great. But I'm not going to begrudge them for it, and nor am I worried right now that they're going to start attracting players like Mbappe, Haaland, the young prospects of the world.
yeah, but who knows, dude? I mean, think about it like this: Haaland just pretty much won the Champions League, Premier. He's won everything at club. Well, not everything really, but he has a couple things left. But think about it like this: he just practically completed football. It's like if Saudi comes in right now and offers him, I don't know, contract like they were gonna around what they've been offering, which is between 50 and 100 million a year. It's like, would you say no to that? Because it's like, I just want everything I had to win. It's like, and we'll get into it later, but Ballon d'Or potentially, it's like you want everything you need to get. It's like pretty much all you need now is just to get money. Well, depending on how much he loves the game, but my point is it's like you think about it at that point because you're like, dude, I want everything. It's like, is moving to Saudi and getting this amount of money worth it, or is like I want everything? It's pretty much, I don't know how to describe it. It's pretty much like early retirement. He's like, I got everything I wanted to. It's like now I can go get 100 million. It's like, why not? Yeah, it is. I find it sketchy just because I feel like they're going to try to weaken the clubs around Newcastle. They're going to try to put like Newcastle up and weaken other clubs because they got so much money and they want Newcastle to win. But I don't know. That's just my own theory. But I do think it is a bit sketchy. It is definitely something to keep your eye on, in my opinion.
And again, the same thing the Chinese Super League came out, these players choosing money over the love of the game. And we talked about on this podcast before how these players can set up their families with generational wealth. Benzema, his kids, 10 generations from now are going to be completely set financially. But at the end of the day, I would like to think that these players choose the love of the sport over the money. I mean, Casemiro's a good example. When he left Real Madrid and they asked him, why did you leave Real Madrid? He's like, I won everything there. I saw no point in staying. And obviously, some players can apply the same logic, even though they won a league title, a domestic cup, Champions League. There's still other challenges awaiting for them in other leagues and other countries.
But I think with Casemiro, I think if Saudi Arabia had came in, because they weren't at that time spending as much money. They weren't doing what they're doing now. I think at that time, if Saudi Arabia had come in, I think he would have gone to Saudi Arabia for 50 to 100 million, honestly, because that time Saudi Arabia wasn't spending money with it. They came in at, I think he would have done it because I think he would have been like, well, I accomplished everything. It's like, do I really want to go to United and struggle for, not struggle, but be part of a rebuild, or would I just rather go get generational wealth? So I think if Saudi Arabia was doing what they are doing now at that time, I think he would have been in Saudi Arabia by now.
Yeah, and then again, these players don't really need this money. It's just nice to have. I mean, they're already millionaires by now, but I mean, to each their own. Each person has their own motives as to what they do, and I mean, I don't think we're anyone to judge. Like Benzema, he said a big part of him going was he always wanted to live in a Muslim country. He's Muslim. You and I were saying earlier that maybe Saudi's going to start specifically targeting these Muslim players. I can see Pogba going there in a year or two, maybe. Mm-hmm. Others will follow, and even then, even if they build their whole league with all these stars, at least having one star on each team, I don't think it'll attract any interest. I don't think it'll attract any more viewership.
I mean, they have more money, dude. It has been, whether we like it or not, Saudi, I don't watch it, but it has been being covered more ever since Ronaldo's there. Like, I'll see, like, oh, Ronaldo scored a winner for his club and all this stuff. So. Yeah.
But again, like, do you know where you can watch Saudi Pro League games? I can't. I don't know where to watch them from if I wanted to.
Well, I think if this expansion goes how they want it to go, maybe we'll start seeing them strike TV deals where they're more accessible.
Yeah, because obviously, Serie A has Paramount, the Premier League and the La Liga are tied up with NBC, or not La Liga, that's ESPN, along with the Bundesliga. It seems like every league has its designated platform for fans to watch their game. Maybe Saudi will follow suit. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think Saudi is beIN Sports. I'm not sure.
That makes sense. Yeah. But, and we all know beIN Sports used to be La Liga, and now they are over here with ESPN. But yeah, man, it's an interesting topic. And I would like to think that, this probably the segue into our next conversation, that a player like Messi will choose the love of the game or a certain lifestyle over, the love of money. But I would like to think that. But again, there's other motives probably as to his move to Inter Miami, which I think we're going to talk about next. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you haven't heard the news by now, I mean, you're probably living under a rock, because it's probably the biggest news to hit the entire sports world of America in a long time. And I told you this earlier, but if this doesn't blow up the sport in this country, in the States, then I really don't know what will. I just don't think it'll ever be taken seriously. But huge news for pretty much all of the sports world in general. I mean, the day that he made that move official, it was trending more than the Miami Heat that were playing in the NBA Finals. Pretty much they were covering it on the show as well. So yeah, very interesting. But again, I would like to say he chose the love of the sport over the money that Saudi Arabia was offering him. But I don't know, man. What do you think? And what are your thoughts on that move overall, I guess?
Yeah, I was going to say, dude, if Messi went to Saudi Arabia, I think that would have been the beginning for them of that dominance of, like, growing their league. Because Ronaldo's Ronaldo, dude, but Messi is Messi, man. Like, he's just, in my opinion, bigger than Ronaldo. He attracts more than Ronaldo, and I think, dude, if he had gone to Saudi, that was, like, the end. But I think you hit it right on the spot, too, dude. This doesn't grow the MLS, then nothing will. And, like, I'll say it right now up front, dude. As much as I love Messi, I ain't watching the MLS, bro. I don't like the MLS. I've tried watching it, just the quality of football is too low. I mean, look, I'll say this, if I didn't watch him at PSG, which is of a lot higher quality league, there's no way I'm watching him play for Inter Miami, who in any other league would be fighting relegation, but since it's the MLS, there's no relegation. So, yeah, but, as the joke says, as the memes say, dude, football died for me when Messi announced his move to Inter Miami, and I guess for me, he practically announced his retirement. I mean, in his interview, he said the stuff he had to. If you heard him, he's like, I'm moving here for family reasons. He's like, the family really loves it here. He's like, I wanted. He's like, it was Barca or Miami. He's like, I didn't want to wait for Barca, so we went to Miami. He's like, for the love, for the people and all this stuff. And to me, he just practically said everything besides that he came here for footballing. Like, he pretty much was like, oh, he's like, Miami is a great place, all this stuff. He just talked about how nice Miami was, but nowhere did he mention that, oh, it's a great league, we're going to be fighting for titles or anything. It was just, I'm excited to go in Miami, and pretty much, I guess, he said he wanted to be out of the spotlight and just relax. So, I mean, dude, if he's saying that, I mean, he is Messi, he's still going to play amazing, but bro. I mean, it just sounds like retirement to me. Like he's just pretty much coming here to chill, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And again, that I would like to think that he did a lot of this out of the nobleness of his heart, because he said that he had heard rumors that Barca were trying to, what would they do last year? Pull financial levers.
they're gonna sell players and
lower players' salaries, and he was like, I didn't want to be a part of that. I didn't want to be a contributing factor to that. So that also contributed to the move. And again, similar to Casemiro, maybe he saw this as a challenge. Inter Miami is in last place in their conference, and maybe he sees this as a challenge to possibly move him up to, maybe not first, but like a potential playoff spot, because yes, the the States has playoffs, and potentially make a deep run in the cup. But I don't know. Again, like you said, that's a good point. I didn't think about that until now, that he didn't really say that what grade of a league it is, what grade of a team it is, what grade of a challenge it is. Nothing football related, just pretty much the lifestyle for his...
It's a beautiful city.
Yeah, literally. And obviously we know Messi is a huge family-oriented person. Obviously, his wife, Antonella, had a lot to say in this deal as well, because she did not want to move to Saudi Arabia. He loves his kids, and he always puts them in the best schools wherever he goes. And he talked about how his kids were very excited to start the next school year in America. So that's a huge reason. But again, man, do you think this will tarnish his legacy? Because I've seen a lot of memes and a lot of people, Ronaldo fanboys online, saying that, Ronaldo at the age of 35 was scoring hat tricks against Atletico de Madrid in the Champions League, was putting up over 100 goals for Juventus. But for me, I think the whole Ronaldo-Messi argument just died the day Messi won the World Cup. For me, there's never any comparison, and I think even Ronaldo knew that to an extent. That's why he didn't continue his career in Europe.
Yeah, I think the only thing Ronaldo has is one more Champions League, but at the end of the day, it's like, what do you value more, a World Cup or one more Champions League? And it's like, dude, I value a World Cup more. But I guess it doesn't tarnish, but it leaves a bit of a stain at the end, because he could still play at the highest level in Spain in Europe for another year or two. And he decided to come to the MLS and low quality league. Yeah, but I am upset about it, because I would have preferred he went to Barca. But at the same time, how I think about it is like, he's Messi. He always said that he had won everything in his career besides the World Cup, and that after he won the World Cup, his priorities changed to his family being happy and all this other stuff. Practically everything went to prioritize his family's happiness. So I mean, he's won the World Cup. He's earned the right to do whatever he wants, but I don't know. At the same time, I do think, you hear other players like that have come to MLS, like Thierry Henry, Beckham, Lampard, Steven Gerrard. The thing they always say, Zlatan, I think too, they say that the physicality is what surprises them the most. But at the same time, I think it was Zlatan who said it too. He said, we do a lot of work for very little play. And he said, we put in a lot like physical work, like running a lot, all this stuff. He's like, but yeah, it's for very little like play. Like, I don't know what he meant by that, but either I'm messing up the quote, but the quote was something like that. He said it's a lot of physical work for the very little whatever, a little play, little whatever.
I think he meant that, like, little time to actually spend doing physical in the game.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think I'm misquoting it, but I think he might struggle but at the same time, what I also think is because Messi wants to, he said that previously that he wants to play 2024 Copa America, and then that he hopes that if he's in good health and everything goes well, that he wants to play for the 2026 World Cup. So, he might be coming here thinking, no relegation, no nothing. He's like, I can just take it easy. So and save myself for the national team, because it's pretty much that at the moment. It's his family, and then I think it's the national team. Mm-hmm. And then I think way below that is his actual club career at the moment. I
mean, he's achieved everything in his career. I think he'll go down as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he has little to prove. And honestly, I think even Messi not being, as physical or whatever in the MLS, I think he's still going to tear the absolute crap out of the MLS. And yes, we've seen players, like, I think the best examples we've seen was Carlos Vela in his first year for LAFC, how he just tore the league apart. David Villa, when he was here, he was absolutely amazing. Sebastian Jovinko was tearing the year up year in, year out. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, too, although injuries did hamper him a lot, he was obviously one of the best players in MLS history for such a short span of time. I think Messi's going to surpass all of these players. I can see him literally just receiving the ball from his own half and dribbling past the entire defense for, honestly, 80% of these teams in the MLS and putting the team on his back and winning games by himself. Will he do that? Probably not. But, I mean, it's still the same Messi. We saw this at the World Cup. A drop of the shoulders, a swivel of the hips, and he's gone. No one can really defend him. And, this league with the goalkeepers and defenders like we were talking about earlier, I just don't see any other way besides him. He can half walk with a, I think Higuain said it too. He's like, I expected to come here and play with a cigarette in one hand and dominate the league, but Messi's no Higuain. I think Messi's going to be more than capable to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, oh, man. I don't know, dude. I told you this, but his contract is year to year. I think it's going to be a 3-year deal, but it is year to year. But I told you, I have a sneaking feeling that he's going to be at Barca next year. I feel like maybe he comes here, maybe it's too easy or he doesn't enjoy the football in here. I feel like he'd ask to be loaned back to Barca. And I don't know why. I just feel like I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to see him in Europe next year, whether that's at Barca or another club. But I feel like we're going to see him next year in Barca for some reason. I don't know why, but...
And he wouldn't be the first player to go to the MLS and then return back to Europe. Obviously, Beckham did it. He was the first one. Zlatan did it and had a really success. He won a freaking Scudetto with AC Milan after. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, but... I mean, I guess kind of to end this topic, man, I mean... Dude, Messi, Ronaldo. The end of an era. Both not in European football for the first time since I think both of us have started watching footy. First time none of them are going to be playing in Europe next year, right? I mean, I guess the question is who's up next, man? Is it really going to be Haaland versus Mbappe? I mean, do those guys even excite you? Like, generate half the excitement of Messi versus Ronaldo did? Because for me, they don't, dude. Like, honestly, like, I don't even know. I think the most exciting player in football today, in my opinion, is Vinny. Like, he has that joga bonito, He does play for Real Madrid, the only negative about him, but, bro, I mean, there's no one really. I mean, Mbappe is more like the Messi archetype. He does everything well, and Haaland's more like the Ronaldo, where he scores a lot of goals, and if he doesn't score, he doesn't really affect the game. But it's like, bro, do those guys even excite you? I mean, the next generation of football, I feel like it's not as exciting. I mean, Ronaldo and Messi were like the last ones for me, and I'm just like, man, that's it.
Yeah. And then I think, a big thing that helped out their career and their legacies in Europe was the fact that they played on two different rival teams in the same league. And honestly, we probably don't have that. Mbappe is pretty much all alone in PSG, in Liga, and in general. I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. Unless, stars were to align and they each went to Barcelona and Real Madrid, or if Manchester United were to sign someone of world-class caliber like Haaland. But I just don't see that happening. But, yeah, those are probably the two most obvious candidates. But then after that, there's a lot of young, exciting talent. Jude Bellingham, Jamal Musiala. There's a lot of young Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo, like you mentioned. There's a lot of young, exciting talent all across Europe. But no one really, will grab my attention the way Messi ever did, where I want to sit down every weekend, week in, week out, and just watch him play. So, yeah, probably not, man. I'm probably going to take a step back from watching as much football as I do now, honestly.
Yeah, the thing for me is there's no one that stands up above the rest, such as, like, dude, whenever you talk about them, it'd always be Messi and Ronaldo were the first two, whatever order you had them to. It was always, like, the first two. But, like, you talk about it nowadays, which, I mean, you could either see as negative or positive. There's no really two. Like, some people will be like Haaland, but other people are like, no, I think Vinny should be there. Rashford, Kvaratskhelia, De Bruyne. They're not really the overarching two that stand out the most. It's like, oh yeah, there's Haaland and Mbappe, but then people are like, oh, but there's all these others. So in my opinion, there's not really those players yet. There's a lot of great players, but no one that quite stands out like Messi and Ronaldo did, which is sad.
Yeah. And then, I think that this is the next segue or next question we're going to ask. But, after the Champions League final today after the tremendous season that not only City but Holland that we're mentioning right now had, and then obviously we all know what Messi did in the World Cup. Did he have the best season for PSG in 2022-23? Probably not, but I mean, if it comes down to these two, and a lot of people are saying this is the argument right now, it's going to be one of these two for the Ballon d'Or, which is December, right? That's when they always have the ceremony.
October 30th.
October 30th. Okay, and they obviously moved the credential to a full season. So it's going to be from 2022 to 2023. Yeah, a lot of people are arguing it should be Holland, but then a lot of people are saying that you can't overlook what Messi did in the World Cup. But does that justify everything over what Holland did for Man City this season? What are your thoughts?
Dude, I haven't been on podcasts before, but my thought process was always like, it's Messi's. But if Haaland wins the treble, I think it's Haaland's. And that's how I think today. And even more so after Messi moved to the MLS, dude, in my opinion, they're just not going to give the Ballon d'Or to a player who's currently playing in the MLS. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen, in my opinion. I mean, if it does, I'll be proven wrong, but in my opinion, I don't think so. I mean, dude, because Messi... Because you got to take into consideration the league they played. I mean, it's League On. It's not even... I don't even know if it's still top 5 league in the world. I'm not sure. I think it dropped down to 6, but I'm not sure. But still, it's like... I don't know. It's just... What Haaland did, especially considering it's his first season in the Prem, it's just what he did, to me, surpasses. I mean, Messi, the World Cup, and that's it. I mean, League On, but no one really cares about it. He won it, yeah, whatever. But they got embarrassed in the Champions, and then they didn't even win the Coupe de France. So in my opinion, it's Haaland's. I don't know what you think.
No, I'm going to play devil's advocate, bro. There's nothing that... And again, I've made this point on various times on this podcast. If Modric won the Ballon d'Or one year as a World Cup runner-up, then surely Messi has to win it as the winner. And again, I think everything he did at the tournament, being top goal scorer, top assister, top chance creator, all these metrics far exceeds everything that Haaland did in one season with the Premier League, because he literally put an entire nation on his back, and I would argue it's probably even harder to win a World Cup than it is a Premier League.
To win a treble? Because I'm arguing winning a treble is harder than winning the World Cup.
Okay, but come on. Messi's the only player in Europe, despite having a down season for PSG, to make 20 goals and 20 assists in all competitions. And then if we're being honest with ourselves, Haaland has not performed at the highest level in the same way that Messi did, and when latter games when it matters, and knockout stage games and finals. Today in the UCL final, he didn't show up. He didn't actually score in the UCL, and the last time he scored was in the quarterfinals, the first leg quarterfinals versus Bayern Munich. Didn't score versus Real Madrid, didn't score versus Inter Milan today. And then, his goals contributed a lot to Man City's Premier League, but obviously we all know the team that he had around him, and FA Cup, not really remembering. He didn't score in the final, that's all I remember. But yeah, I don't know. For me, it's an individual award for a team sport, so it's always going to be kind of weird. But the best individual performance that from the 2022-23 season, including the World Cup, has always been Messi, because that World Cup, I don't think we'll ever see it replicated again.
I'd have to disagree. I'm a Messi fanboy, but I'd have to disagree, dude. Especially because of just how the club season, they only won Ligue 1, and everything else they got embarrassed in. And the fact that it's a treble, dude, I mean, and he's the main centerpiece around them. Oh, I was going to say something else, I forget, but I don't know, dude. I just think it's Haaland's. I just think it is. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, dude, it's just him going to the MLS, I think, I don't think they're ever going to give it to him, especially playing in the MLS. Like, I sincerely doubt they will give it to him playing in the MLS. But then here's a counterpoint. When Zlatan was putting up not similar numbers, but he was putting up like maybe 25, 30 plus goals and 5 plus assists, no one cared. No one gave a crap about it. It wasn't taken into. Everyone was like, yeah, he did good, but it's the league on. And now Messi does it, and he's like, we got to be objective and fair. It's like, just because Messi's now doing it doesn't all of a sudden make it better. It's like when Zlatan did it, everyone's like, it's Ligue 1, it's whatever. The only thing that really matters for PSG is the Champions League, and they can't win it with Zlatan, so it doesn't matter. So I think it's Haaland.
No, and I still think everything Messi did at the World Cup is going to win in that Ballon d'Or. I mean,
it's a 1 month. But you also got to remember, you mentioned that Modric season, but you got to also remember that's remembered as I'd say it's the most controversial one in the past seasons. Everyone was like, dude, Messi was left out of top 5. Everyone's like, dude, how was he left out of top 5? He had a tremendous season. And they're like, oh, Modric did. I think he won Champions League and another trophy, and people were pissed. They're like, he was runner-up. It's like people were pissed. They're like, how's Messi out of top 5? So you also got to take that into account, that was one of the biggest controversies regarding the Ballon d'Or in the recent memory. I mean, then there's the 2021 where everyone's like, yeah, that should have been Lewandowski's, but they just canceled it for some reason. And then 2021, people were like, that one should have been Lewandowski. That one could have been either Messi's or Lewandowski's, but either way, dude, I mean, if we're going to give it to a man based off a 12-game tournament, I know I'm sounding like a Messi hater, dude, but a 12-game tournament, that is crazy. That is crazy. Instead of, because we're talking about season, yes, he had a great statistical season, but bro, if we're gonna give it to him just based off a 12-game season, it's like, you can argue that for Haaland too. He was top goal scorer in the Champions League, and I think that's 12 games as well. So it's just, I think it's Haaland's, bro. A treble. Top goal scorer, broke a couple records. Top goal scorer in the Premier League by a decent margin, and top goal scorer in the Champions League. It's like, bro, I think it's his.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised nor disappointed if Haaland did win the Ballon d'Or, but yeah, it's still like, I guess it matters what you value more. And, some people might put a lot more weight into the World Cup. Some people might put a lot more weight into the Premier League and Champions League. But again, it is based off an entire 2022-2023 season. And I don't know. I hope they do take everything into consideration. But I guess because it's voted by pundits, right, and players, as far as the winner goes.
I think it's voted by supposedly respectable journalists, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess it is subjective. Everyone's going to have their own opinion as to what they value more. But I mean, I guess we'll find out in October or November. When was it again?
October 30th. But I think I was gonna say, I was just gonna close it off. I remember. I was gonna say, just copy what you said. I wouldn't be upset if they gave it to Messi or anything, but I would be surprised because he's in the MLS, and I just don't believe they'll ever give it to someone in the MLS, bro. So I would be surprised if Messi got it, but I would not be disappointed, regardless of me arguing that I think Haaland should have won it. But I would not be disappointed at all with either one winning them. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty much was that all the topics you wanted to talk about?
How long we've been on?
About an hour, yeah.
I guess, yeah, because the other thing was going to just talk about Barca, or if you want to go over the 100 million transfers and to rate them, but we can do that another time.
Yeah, it's a long summer. We can definitely do that then. Yeah. But, season's officially over, so I guess we can come back next week with our team of the seasons for, I guess, has the Premier League released theirs, the PFA one?
I'm not sure, probably, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we can come up with, similar to what we did last year, come up with our team of the season for each league, each top 5 league, and then one overall league. So I guess that'll be next week's plan, and hopefully Aldo's back by then, and then after that it's a long summer. I guess a lot of transfer talk and rumors and rebuilds and maybe some special guests here and there, but yeah, I guess we'll just wait and find out.
Oh yeah, speaking of transfers, we can confirm some real quick. Jude Bellingham to Real Madrid, official, 103 million plus 30 million of variables. Oxlade-Chamberlain and Yuri Tielemans joined Aston Villa, both free transfers. I think smart and good moves by Aston Villa.
McAllister to Liverpool.
Yeah, McAllister to Liverpool. I think 35 million, either right around 35 million. I don't think it exceeded 40 million, but I think that's going to be the bargain of the summer. Let me see which other ones. We already talked about the ones. Kante, Benzema, Saha, all these other guys, they're going to be in Europe.
Uribe?
Mateus Uribe, he's in
PSG?
Saudi Arabia.
No.
Manuel Ugarte, he's at PSG.
Yeah.
Let me just see. I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, Zlatan retired. The legend himself, Zlatan. Sadly, I don't think he ever won Champions League, but yeah, I wish him all the best in retirement. I think he's taking up a management position at a club. I don't know if at Milan or somewhere else, but that's what he made it sound like. Oh yeah, Hazard got let go. He's contemplating retirement, but he might also go to either MLS or Saudi Arabia. But Yeah, I mean, that's all the ones I could think of for now. And yeah, I guess we'll just probably come back next week and we'll have more confirmed ones. But yeah.
All right. Well, as always, y'all, thank you for listening. Make sure you like the podcast wherever you get it. We're on various platforms. One of our new ones recently is YouTube. Our podcast from last week is on there as well. So check that out at 90 and 60 Pod. And as always, we'll see you next week. Adios.